Okay, I'm going to leave. Okay. So, welcome to this session. I'm going to pass the floor to our panelists. So, Amanda, Nikki, and Philippine, is the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Well, I'm really excited to be moderating this panel. We're still waiting for Ajita to join us, but hopefully she'll arrive in due course when she gets a link sorted. But of course, for me, it was unbelievable stat to learn that in 2025, still only 3% of impact financing and venture capital goes to women-led organizations or women teams, which seems crazy. But I'm very, very lucky to have on the panel Philippine Burns. Philippine is head of partnerships at Humanity Insured. Humanity Insured is a not-for-profit. It's only 1 year old, but already it's making huge inroads in the allocation of microinsurance and support for vulnerable people in against climate crises. Um, so interestingly, Philippine and Ajita have collaborated on on a project that launched very recently. So hopefully we'll be able to hear more about that later. Alongside Philippine is Professor Nicola Banks, Nikki, as well as heading up the Global Institute of Development at Manchester University. She's also co-steward and co-founder at One World Together, which is a solidarity movement which issues micro grants totally unrestricted to challenge communities across the globe. And the big push at the moment is the 1% grant fund, which is attempting to encourage people just to donate a tiny amount of their monthly salary, um, so that 1% of the population would do an awful lot of transformation amongst those vulnerable communities and challenged communities. So I think maybe if we could perhaps kick off, Philippine, I wonder if it's possible for you to explain in your own words how Humanity Insured works, how it allocates its grants, how it finds its collaborators.
Would be good if I went off mic. Thank you, Amanda, and yeah, a pleasure to be here. Um, so so Humanity Insured, as you mentioned, is a not-for-profit. We are backed by the insurance market and incubated by the insurance industry. Um, and we were created to make insurance accessible and affordable for the 3.6 billion people who live on the climate crisis front line. We were founded in October 2024. It took us about 3.5 years to set up, but we became operational in October 2024, really in response to the global in response to the broken global humanitarian finance architecture that we find ourselves in, and call from public sector leaders such as Prime Minister Mia Mottley, for the private sector to really come to the table meaningfully and for private sector tools to be used to protect the world's most vulnerable. I think everyone kind of on this call is probably very aware how existing methods of disaster response are inefficient. Aid often arrives too late or too slowly. And what we do at Humanity Insured is we use private and philanthropic capital to finance insurance premiums and unlock insurance solutions that actually deliver certainty and choice and resilience before disasters strike. So we're trying to shift the focus from financing disaster relief to actually proactive risk management that individuals can own themselves. And so helping people safeguard assets and protect their futures. And financing inclusive insurance essentially allows communities to plan, rebuild, recover, and ultimately thrive in times of crisis and disasters. So our model is really built on this principle that insurance and the private sector can be a complete game changer for the humanitarian and development sectors if it's inclusive and if it has an element of preparedness or what we call anticipatory action attached to it. Our portfolio spans kind of drought insurance in Malawi and Pakistan to flood protection in South Sudan, to looking at kind of dual solutions or bundled products in like Zambia, for example, where we're combining insurance with wildlife conflict compensation. At our core, so as I said, we finance insurance solutions and we work with aggregators and partners such as Frontier Markets, as you mentioned, Amanda, to finance community-led solutions. So these aren't off-the-shelf insurance products. They are solutions that are designed with input and feedback from the communities that they are protecting. And we we focus sort of on what we call parametric insurance within the insurance industry, which is where we use satellite basically triggered policies, and we use satellite data and mobile wallets or different types of distribution methods to deliver funds directly and quickly and often, quite often before the worst of the impacts hits. So as mentioned, we're only a year old. In our first year, we've mobilized £33 million in insurance coverage using just £2.7 million in grant funding, and that's protected 2 million people already. And I think those numbers really demonstrate the multiplier effect that insurance has in providing kind of financing to the most vulnerable communities. And it works because in our first year, we've also enabled £6.7 million of payouts to communities in times of disasters in countries such as Syria, for example, Nepal, Ethiopia, Pakistan. And ultimately, this approach works for sort of four reasons, really. The first one is that we're designing with communities, not for them. So we're listening to their needs and building trust. And we do that through working with aggregator partners who have those relationships and that trust within the communities. And those aggregator partners can be anything from organizations that are social enterprises, cooperatives, saving loans associations, to banks, to local NGOs, UN agencies. It ultimately depends on who is the partner that has that direct connection or that most direct connection with the community and that we can work with to build awareness and trust within the solution. The second is that we ensure that the insurance products and solutions are inclusive, affordable, and available. So as I mentioned, they're not off the shelf. And the reason we can do that is because we are financing the solutions, we can really push the insurance industry to make sure that they are as effective as possible by asking some really tricky questions that potentially our aggregator partners would not necessarily know or understand before. Thirdly is that we use technology to deliver funds directly and quickly, as I mentioned, through kind of different satellite triggers, but also via mobile wallets, etc. And we also combine this financial protection with education resilience building activities such as helping smallholder farmers go towards more regenerative farming practices, for example. And yeah, so that's a broad summary of how we're helping communities move from vulnerability and reliance to post-disaster aid to self-resilience.
That's brilliant. You mentioned crucially trust, And if I
Yeah.
may bring Ajita in here, um, because I was listening to an interview that you gave recently, and you said that there's this huge wealth and depth of trust in women smallholder farmers in rural India that is valuable beyond money, and it's the real commodity that makes everything work. Ajita, if I can just quickly introduce you. Ajita's founder and CEO of Frontier Markets, and she's responsible for bringing economic power and sustainability to tens of thousands of women in rural India. I would say you're a one-woman microfinance powerhouse. So, um, would you like to expand on the point of trust and why that's so key, and also maybe why, with an insurance a sort of package, but also when women are able to contribute economically and build their life sustainably, what that actually means?
So first of all, so sorry that it's taken me this long to get on this Zoom call, but I'm glad that I made it. And thank you so much for making this panel happen. I think it's just so important and powerful in the way it is. Amanda, I wouldn't say not tens of thousands, but 50,000. So we have 45,000 women entrepreneurs today on a digital platform that are the conduits of helping facilitate services in a really big way across India in 5,000 villages, in reaching out to over 5 million families, which means 35 million people. And I think, Philippine, I'm so glad that you did say what you did, because as you know, we are so proud to be a partner of Humanity Insured in the work of insurance for this reason, because I think the work that we're doing together is so game changing, leveraging on Amanda to your point of this question. Um, so um, a lot of times when we look at a gender lens of things that we want to do, we always go, oh, well, the reason why we are investing in women or thinking about the power of women is because we need to bridge that, divide or that gap in terms of systemic barriers. And so a lot of times we always look at women as beneficiaries because there's challenges that they face. But I'm going to say that rhetoric seriously has shifted very drastically over the last like 20 years, because in my own journey of working in rural India, have never looked at this with that lens of beneficiary, but a lens of opportunity. And I look at women as truly assets. And sometimes people like me saying this, and sometimes people don't like me saying this. But I will say that I look at them because they are trust builders, they're pioneers, they are game changers, they're ready to make not just markets move and systems happen, but they're actually the true people that are the confidant that actually understand what's happening in the lay of the land of the communities that they come from. Because on a fundamental level, women speak very different languages than when men speak different languages, right? So, and I'll give this as the perspective of my own journey. In 2015, when we had already set up Frontier Markets, we were working in clean energy as an area, and we were helping, I think, about 30,000 or 40,000 families get access to solar products. And at that time, our model was focused on men as retailers that were going to then, help rural families get access to services, because we thought it was an expensive product, right? Above 30, 40, $50, it suddenly becomes expensive. And we always thought that men would make the decision of where money gets spent. And we, in partnership with EY and a few others, we said, okay, well, let's now see what our impact is. Like, what has happened when 30,000 people have access to a solar product? And third party assessment around this, people were calling the same phone numbers of the customers that obviously bought the solar products, which typically at that moment was men. And when the third party was asking questions like, oh, how do you feel about this solution? Do you feel smart about it? Do you feel good about it? How have you used it? What's going on? Has it changed your life? They would get so frustrated that they finally were like, listen, my wife uses it, my mom uses it, my sister uses it, my daughter uses it. And 70 to 80% of the users were actually women that we never met. So in 2015, we said, okay, well, how do we get access to these women? Once we started talking to these women, and this is where the power of this thing becomes phenomenal, women are like, let me tell you the 25 ways I use that clean energy product. Let me tell you how it's changed my child's life. Let me tell you about my journey. And let me tell you about the 6 other people that I recommended this being a good solution to change their lives as well. And that is where the power came in. And we realized women are not just there as a beneficiary, they are literally the connectors of deep insights in a really important way, but also they are the conduits to create impact in a really important way. So if we link this into the context of, let's just say, let's use the example, Philippine, that you're talking about in terms of insurance, but overall, in India, we have 700,000 villages with 800 million people who are deprived of access to goods and services where they live. And what does that mean? That mean it's not just an Amazon story, it's a need story. If I don't know who a woman farmer is, or I don't know what a family needs, because I don't truly understand who they are, I'm not going to be able to create those solutions for them, but also I'm not going to be able to deliver to them in the way that it makes financial sense. But also, if I don't know them, I'm not going to necessarily create the right solution for the right person at the right time. This is where depth insight comes in. I think this is a classic Apple journeys of understanding, like, what do you do when you do deep insights in the right way? And ultimately, I would say that, like, that's where, when we created our program with women entrepreneurs, we said, you're not a salesperson, you're a connector, you're a trust builder. Because who are these women? These are women that have been living in this village forever. They know their neighbors, they know their families, they know, in Hindi, we would say kundlis. We know everything about them, their birth charts, to their astrology, to their life, to their choices. Now, in this context, imagine if that woman has the right power of technology and is being able to capture everything she already knows. That data that comes in allows us to create market opportunities. Now, in the context of insurance, you also really need to be able to understand, what does it mean to design something based on real time problems? In the lens of climate, we all know it's been intense and really diverse, frankly speaking, depending on time and place. So how do you create an insurance product? Who wants that insurance product? Who should have access to that insurance product? And if they did get that payout of what insurance technically promises, if it's the right solution, what will they do with that money? And this is where I believe women become the center of all of this in a really beautiful way. So when we looked at this, we said, okay, in India's context, small women farmers, there's almost 80 million small women farmers. What does that mean? These are women that are ultimately curtailing the land that they own as a family, which is 0.5 to 2 acres maximum of land size. And they are not getting paid to cultivate their land. They are unpaid workers that use that land to feed their families. And when climate change kicks in, they equally suffer, because if there's a flood or a drought and that land is no longer viable because of climate change, no one is giving them money to be able to then replace their need to feed their family. And so when we partner with Humanity Insured around this initiative, kind of full circle, Amanda, I hope it's okay that I'm taking this much time, but like when we came into this like full circle thing, we said, how do we elevate this network of women with technology to ask the right questions? One, who are these small women farmers? How are they cultivating that land? Do they have ownership of that land or not? What would happen if they were being able to protect their ability to feed their children? Just, and what is the climate catastrophe? So global parametrics coming in with the parametric design that the Filipino you talked about, but then you brought in, like, through platform, subsidy, local insurance providers, and data to actually put women at the center of this in the smartest way. Today, we're very proud to say that we've already been able to help almost 6,500 women farmers get access to flood is flood is the first, and then drought as an insurance product that allows them to then be protected to be able to get access to funding that enables them to then not only feel secure and feed their family, but actually be seen in a very different way. The trusted point that you're making, Amanda, is really important, is that why are they trusted? They're trusted because they have nowhere else to go. And it sounds horrible when I say that, but it's actually not horrible. It means that they truly are the community leaders and the influencers in that place. And all we have to do is give them the opportunity to make that happen. So maybe I'll stop here. Yeah.
No, that
Yeah.
was fabulous, a fabulous illustration of the circularity and the absolute authenticity of recognizing women as the key players. And I'd like to turn to Nikki and ask how that resonates with your philosophy and the philosophy of One World Together in terms of recognizing independence and freedom to distribute money, to gain sustainability, to gain freedom, liberation. How does that resonate with you, Nikki?
Thanks, Amanda. It resonates very deeply, I think. First, thank you, Philippine, and thank you, Ajita, for sharing the incredible things that you're achieving at such scale. It's hugely inspiring. And like you, Philippine, I'm also early on in the journey that we're taking it One World together. So it's good to hear more and be inspired. So the languages that we are speaking is all exactly the same. The importance of trust, the importance of community, the importance of relationality, and those being the crucial ingredients to getting anything right when it comes to improving long-term development outcomes, whether social or environmental. And that is not the language that traditional finance speaks. That's not the language that this project-based approach to development that we've been taking for decades speaks. And that's why it's not working as we expect it to. So Amanda, you introduced me with a bit of background, which is that I'm a bit of a newbie to the social impact space. I'm an academic, a researcher in the University of Manchester. I didn't expect to come into this social impact space, but it was a deep frustration over a decade plus of research into why charity is not working when it comes to supporting long-term development around the world. That's a broad body of research that shows that charities pursuing very top-down forms of development that keep power, control, and resources in the hands of decision makers here in the global north is never going to be able to promote genuinely transformative and sustainable development outcomes. And that's matched with this idea that it's not a lack of resources that is the problem. So here in the UK, we have a population that gives around £2 billion a year to development charities, which is huge. Imagine the impact that can have, except for the fact that 90% of that money goes to the biggest charities, so the household names, the big brands, which is a very expensive way to do good. So around 90% of that funding will be spent here in the UK. It will be called, well, we've designed a project, but that's not been designed by the community in the countries that they're operating. So only a fraction of it reaches the communities. And when it does, it's through quite heavily designed projects that say, this is how you have to spend the money. You can't deviate regardless of what happens. You just have to keep reporting on these measurables we've decided on up front. So One World Together is our solution to that. It's about saying that's not good enough. Like when the public donates to charity, they donate to charity because they believe in humanity, they believe in a better world, and that's the way that they can make a difference. So what happens if we can get even a fraction of that £2 billion a year directly to communities on a long-term basis that really supports the development of community organizations over time? And also on a completely flexible basis. So it's communities that decide what they need, when they need it. And if their circumstances change, then they can reallocate those resources however they see fit at any time. So we've designed, so we care about two things. One is about getting the finance right, so long-term and flexible funding directly to communities. But the other part that we're really passionate about is making sure that this is a conversation that we're having, because the systems won't change until the stories and the narratives that prop up the charity system change. So we want our movement to be as broad-based as possible. We want everyone to know that there's a better way. We want everyone to buy into a movement for change, not charity. So with the new 1%, that's kind of our new guiding framework. We're hoping to get a movement of everyday giving, of everyday philanthropy. So people can sign up for as little as £1.25 a month, which we pool. And then over the course of the year, 85% of it is pooled into our solidarity funds and distributed equally across our 4 partners in Manchester, Zambia, and Kenya. And then the remainder is kept to support the movement and our operational costs. So we haven't got numbers anywhere as incredible as Philippine or Ajita, having just started. But we're aiming for a vision by 2050 that if we have 1% of the UK's population signing up to as little as £1.25 a month, we can unlock £4.4 million of completely flexible funding for community-based organisations around the world. We're currently supporting 4 partners. That could be 400, if not 4,000 partners. The other really exciting part of that story is 4.4 million is quite small in the scale of development finance, but our calculations are that every pound to One World Together is actually 40 times more impactful at the community level. And that's because all of it reaches the ground. And it's also because flexible funding it basically turbocharges that investment. So our partners say for every £1 that they receive, it's 5 times more valuable than a pound received under restricted project conditions. So we would be transferring £4.4 million a year, but the traditional aid system would achieve the same impact with £192 million. So we're not just talking about the right thing to do, we're talking about really scaling up the power of what we're doing with much less resources than is needed. So for us, it's not a shortage of resources that is meaning we're failing on all of these kind of big ambitions around the world. It's the fact that the systems are set up to perpetuate these inequalities, and we have to do better than that.
Thank you, Nikki. And the thing that I love that binds everyone here, I think, is the emphasis on trust, dignity, sustainability, and security. And once you build on those pillars, I think then you've got a much more sustainable world. And of course, with Philippine and Humanity Insured, recognizing that, of course, poverty, hunger leads also to migration, conflict, and obviously famine, and they're all underpinning. What I'd like to ask, so many, where to start, but I'd like to know, Philippine and Ajita, about your relationship, because obviously Ajita held the key to knowing how to access this massive population of rural women in India. And I think, Philippine, that you mentioned your system of aggregators. So I wonder how you join the dots between the communities that, you know, they don't have agency, they don't have a platform, but they don't want to be, you know, given a project by Save the Children or whatever. Many other INGOs are available, but they don't want that. They just want a mechanism to provide sustainability and security. Ajita, did you want to come in there?
I was going to say that a couple of things. First of all, Nikki, you're not tiny at all. It's actually kind of amazing, and I think your thought process of how you're thinking about the barriers are beautiful. Because honestly speaking, and I'm saying this in 21 years as an entrepreneur that has literally been wanting to try to understand this, is that like the barriers are not, as you rightfully said, resources. It's about efficiency and it's about execution. It's about the right places. I just want to acknowledge that and just say, like, you're not tiny at all. What you're doing is amazing. And I just think that, like, it's a matter of thinking through collaboration and coalition to actually type that in a much bigger way in terms of where platforms come in the right way to make that happen. So I'm in Zurich right now, but I'll be in London literally next week. So maybe we can have this conversation in person. Because I do think the points that you made is really important around also the idea of effective use of money where people need it and what they need it for. And I think that that's where it's been critical. Now, Amanda, going back to your question, it's an interesting one, and it's a chicken and egg question. Do you build a platform that has access to people first, or do you come up with an innovation or an idea first? Or do two things happen in parallel such that the right people need to come together to make that happen? I think in the case of the work that we've been doing with Humanity Insured, it was the second. We already had a massive platform. Today we have, as I said, I mean, imagine 40,000 women entrepreneurs that are hell-bent and wanting to change the lives of 35 million people across the country, with technology that enables them to actually capture the information that helps us design and innovate in the right way. Where were our barriers? And I'm being very honest about this, is that I didn't know anything about crop insurance. I didn't know anything about crop insurance. I actually don't know the crop insurance industry at all. I had a previous avatar in microfinance. So I knew life insurance, I knew health insurance, I knew insurance generally, and I knew microfinance generally, to your point that you brought up earlier, but I had no idea how complicated crop insurance can be. So what did I need? I needed local insurance providers. I needed brokers. I needed to understand who women were and what they needed. I need to understand the cost of making this thing happen. I need to also create something that I realized very quickly that was going to be new. But do you know how it happened? And this is what's funny when I said the chicken and egg game, is that, like, because we are who we are, I can't tell you how often I go to somewhere, a place, and someone goes, Ajita, don't you think climate is important? Hey, Ajita, don't you think education is important? Hey, Ajita, don't you think healthcare is important? And I'm like, these are really ridiculous questions. So of course, I think these are things that are important. The question is, what do you want to do? Who are you? What do you want to do? And how do you want to make that happen? What are you bringing to the table? What are you offering? And fundamentally, how do we design together in the right way to make it happen effectively? Keeping, again, for me, women at the center of all of this, right? Because they are the conduits to make that change happen. So in this situation of climate insurance, and obviously, Philippine, I'm waiting for you to give your perspective on this as well, is that I literally said, we have over 5 million small women farmers. In India, land ownership is a problem because those same women that are cultivating that land do not own that land. Traditional crop insurance will never make them become eligible to get access to any insurance scheme unless it can prove their connectivity to that land. This is a big problem. So you can go down two routes. You can say, let's keep fighting for women to get land rights. And as there's many people from India right now, so I can tell you, that is 100-year-old story that has not been solved. Women are not getting access to land rights. But we know through our data that women were cultivating the land. So they have equal authority to that land because they actually know that land better than their male counterparts. We also know that men, when they get payouts, don't use it for the purpose that we want them to use it for. Women do. Third, so there were all these factors, and we were like, okay, but what motivated us to make this thing happen was that Humanity Insured came to us, and they were like, if you want to do something with women crop owners and getting quality insurance such that they get the right payout, we are happy to provide our philanthropy to subsidize this. But also, Ajita, we recognize you have no idea how crop insurance or agri insurance or any of this works. How about we also bring in Howden, India, that ultimately is like the king of brokerage or queen of brokerage of like local insurance providers. So they can become your, like, I'm not kidding, bodyguard to help you understand how insurance operates, what works, what doesn't. And then there was a layer of global parametrics and reinsurance. So that we got all the right ingredients in because it was motivated by a common intentionality of wanting to unlock the opportunity to bring insurance where it matters. And then asking ourselves the question of the power of insurance. Why women? Why not women? Barrier, barrier, barrier. In this process, and it's been a year now, so it's an incredible process where I feel like today I can talk about insurance till the night is old, but in a way that I got to learn things, but I also got the right partners in place. But for me, what was the most important was Humanity Insured was not just a subsidy, premium subsidy funder. Humanity Insured became the partner that got us the right people, but also guided us in the right way to design something that made effective sense. And we were able to then collectively say, hey, can we finally celebrate that women have access to like insurance in their bank account because they're cultivating the land in a way that never happened? It took neobanks. It took joint bank accounts. In India, we say something, there's a phrase that we call jugaad, which is find a loophole, find a way to make things work, innovate in the right way. And this is why I think philanthropy is beautiful. If you do it, if you use it with its right intentionality, that's what we did. So neobank, insurance, local insurance providers, premium subsidy, designed to help us build our own capacity and capability, our tech platform. It's a coalition that actually made this entire thing work. So I'm going to stop there to let Filipina like give her reactions to all of this. Yeah.
Philippine, it sounds like it was a real breakthrough, a first in many, many ways. What about the appetite for risk with Humanity Insured? Was that a big obstacle to overcome?
No, that's why we set up Humanity Insured. No, I think to add to Ajita's point though, in order for any of these solutions to be sustainable and scalable, they have to be commercially viable.
Yes.
We're using philanthropic capital to start these projects, right? And in the case of frontier markets, the women aren't directly contributing to the premium, but in some of our other projects, right, they are. But in order to get the insurance industry behind this in the way that Ajita mentioned, because it is the local insurance industry, the brokers, the insurers, the reinsurers, the product developers, the products that are being created with the input from the women so that they're directly addressing the risks that these women say that they face, right? And what is it that keeps them up at night? For those solutions to actually be meaningful and effective, they have to be commercially viable because otherwise the insurance industry won't get behind it. So you're basically you're moving away from, you're using philanthropic capital, but with a private sector lens and mindset, both from how it works at the community and individual level, right? And also what is required for the insurance industry to innovate and actually create these solutions. And from your question about risk appetite, we have a very high, we want risk. We actually really like to invest ultimately. I say invest, but put our capital in projects where other funders or other investors might not want to in the first instance. We prioritize those opportunities that other donors won't fund, precisely because what we're doing is so new. Right? Insurance has been around for centuries. Parametric insurance has been around for 20 years, but it's only really in the last 5 years that it's come into its own, because as a society, we have the data and the technology now to actually really make the most of satellite triggers, right? And we have enough data, etc. And we have the deployment methods to actually reach the last mile, because insurance for vulnerable communities isn't going to work if you don't have a way to ensure that the payouts can reach those individuals so that they have a choice as to how to use the payouts, because they know what's best, right, for them. So it is very new. And because it's very new in terms of this approach, a lot of donors won't necessarily fund or subsidize. We're saying subsidize, but it's actually premium finance for vulnerable communities. So we like to act in places where actually we're kind of that first risk taker, and we're helping organizations such as Ajita and the entrepreneurs that she works with to pilot something that can then be proven to work and can then be scaled either across more, like a greater number of women participating in the program, or across different countries, or you're adding in different perils and different triggers, or you're bringing in more donors, because we're demonstrating that this works and that it not only closes the gender finance gaps, but it helps alleviate poverty, because you're empowering women to be self-resilient, to invest in their own futures in a way that they weren't able to before because of that lack of financing, and building that overall community and society resilience.
So where's the sweet spot in you seeing a need for insurance and people coming?
Can I add one part to this, Amanda, if that's okay? Because I just want to build on what Philippine's saying. She's right in a really important way. I just want to make sure that everyone understands this, right? Because there are old school industries that have been around forever, but it does take innovation. When we think about the role of catalytic capital, it is about innovation. It's about taking larger risk where other risk has not been taken. And it also is about creating an opportunity to think differently. So, but I really also want to double click on the point that Philippine, you've made about the fact that you're demonstrating to open markets. If we were doing this as a small pilot with 100 women farmers, I'll tell you right now, there's no chance this would ever become a market story, right? We are immediately leveraging this perspective of learning, building, and understanding for 10,000 women farmers. But I want to reinforce the fact that we have access to 5 million women farmers. So why, like, the insurance companies get excited is because they never saw this as a market. They didn't care about women. They didn't focus on this at all. And so the idea of being able to like show them truly what the opportunity is game changing, because it is about economies of scale. And I just wanted to like just bring that out as an important point about risk, catalytic innovation, but learning also. I want to reinforce that, because tomorrow, if we do believe that our gender crop insurance product for flood and drought can be replicated across the global south, absolutely will still turn back to humanity insured and global parametrics and others, but at least we have a cookie cutter thing that we can learn from, but we will still need catalytic money to make it happen. But more importantly, what I think is really quite exciting is that we're doing this in 2 seasons. So right now we're doing this as a, grant initiative. With the same 10,000, they'll be paying customers for the next season within that reinsurance product, within this 10,000. And now, to the scale perspective, we needed the attention of government and others that need to understand that you have crop insurance programs. You never thought about the way that you can break barriers for women. How do we become the role model to effectively link together the right assets, which is this combination to take that to scale? So I just want to put that out there, because their risk first approach also, I think for me, was the inspiration of what Charlie has always said, which is that we just believe that insurance should be available to all. And what is the power of insurance? It allows you to change the way you think about things. If a woman doesn't have to care about her a sleepless night of thinking about the fact that she might not be able to feed her child and she's secured, she thinks very differently about how she spends her day. If a woman is a farmer, also has the ability to know that she's been secured by a, let's call it an asset. This is what insurance is, frankly. It's an asset in its own self. She's able to unlock new sets of finance because bankers don't see her as such a risk anymore because she has a collateral that's gets structured. And I just want to make sure that we see that. It's not just about the philanthropy, but it's about what the philanthropy does to build a shift in the ecosystem to reinforce the power of what we can do to unlock sustainability scalability. Sorry. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Don't apologize.
Here's what I can say.
It's great. Philippine, go.
Sorry, what was the question?
No. All I was saying was, is there a sweet spot between you having the funds or the scope to be able to reach out to communities, and the communities you want to reach because there's a kind of a profile, or for example, you've had success there, and so you think, right, okay, I can scale that across. I'm saying but I mean as an organization, or do you rely on people coming to you via, as Ajita was saying, local insurance brokers, or what? How does that system work?
Yeah. It's varied, if I can be really honest. So we are a small team. There are only 9 of us within Humanity Insured, but with it, we're incubated within Howden. So Howden is a global broker with about 55 offices, if not more. We are also backed by 11 founding partners from across the insurance industry. And you can see all of them on our website. But just to name a few, our founding partners include AXA XL, Tokyo Marine Kiln, Allianz, a number of London market underwriters such as sort of Hiscox and Fidelis and Beazley. And this group of founding partners themselves have over 600 offices around the world. And so in one instance, for example, opportunities will come across opportunities because our founding partners say, okay, there's this really cool initiative, there's a really cool idea, but there's no way to finance it. And that's number one. The second is, and that's from the regional offices. The second is very much, we do a lot to learn. So we'll attend various conferences because whilst we might have that insurance backing, and as a team, we come from the philanthropic sector, the humanitarian sector, development sector, consulting, etc., we're not the ones working directly with the communities on the ground. So we need to establish relationships with aggregators such as Frontier Market. So we'll do a lot of travel kind of to conferences to meet individuals. And we have to travel because we're based in London. And if not everyone's going to be coming to London, right? And we want to work with community-led organizations. So we need to do that. And we've only been operating for a year, so it's very much kind of word of mouth as well as active searching. But we have a geographical restriction and we have restrictions of communities. So we work with communities whose livelihoods are most impacted by or completely destroyed by climate volatility. So that's smallholder farmers, coastal communities, displaced people, and urban informal workers. Now you might say, actually, that's the majority of the populations, and then we work in ODA countries eligible for ODA financing, and again, that's 46 countries. But we are trying to. But the number one ingredient, which is critical in all of this, along with the commercial viability from the product side, but it's actually that the communities that will benefit from this insurance protection actually have an awareness of the insurance cover, but also want it. If it's not going to work if essentially an insurance broker underwriter comes to us and says, we have this product and we want to open it in this market, if that community hasn't asked for that solution, that's not something we're going to get involved in, because the solution has to be requested by the group of women or the organization such as Frontier Markets that is working very closely with that community and has that understanding of kind of microfinance, etc. And then what we do as part of our work is, alongside the insurance cover, we'll ensure that there is a program of financial education and awareness and training, so that the knowledge of protection, essentially. So that basically the women know that they are not only protected, but what does it mean? What are the triggers? What does it mean when they get a payout? How are they going to get a payout, etc.? And it is that knowledge, very much as Ajita says, that then leads to that behavior change that we really hope will come out of this, because that behavior change is so much more than a payout. It's actually, what is the benefit of financial protection or insurance sort of outside of that claim?
What I'm very eager to find out as well is, from the three of you heads together, it is, how can this be scaled? How can the impact of these breakthroughs be scaled so everybody else doesn't have to go around reinventing the wheel? I mean, I'm not asking you to say, well, obviously it's I think it's probably incremental influences, but I just really would value your opinions on how we, getting back to the whole closing the gap on women being financed and knowing the greater social impact that supporting women can have. In my head, I'm like, well, why isn't that center of all funders' thoughts? It's obviously not. So, what is the work that can be done based on what you guys are already achieving and all your research, all your work, all your findings, all your outcomes that can help others along the journey? Who wants to go first? Ajita? Oh, you're still mute.
Sorry, I had to figure out. Clearly, I'm on my phone and I'm literally in another country. So it's a beautiful question, and I'm going to keep it very simple and brief. I think that we've been asked this question like 100 times. Literally, I was in the ASEAN summit last week. Right now, I'm in Zurich, and I was sitting with like a big family of insane funders that focus on Africa. And everyone from SAP to Microsoft, others have been going deep dive into our technology, going, what makes you different? And I said, it's not the technology that makes us different, it's our intentionality. So, being a Schwab entrepreneur, I actually realized that like it's about building ecosystems in the right way. So, three ingredients that I think it takes to make this thing happen. When I, as a, and sorry, one last context, I'm an impact investor myself, and every fund that I'm involved in, I've made sure that they had a gender lens thesis. So you can be an agri company and then like say that, oh, your farmers are women because 51% of all farmers are women. That's lie, unless you're actually servicing and creating products for women farmers specifically, hence the insurance, hence everything. But if you're a logistics company in last mile rural India or last mile rural anywhere, we can understand that psychologically you're not going to have women drivers per se, right? Based on safety, mobility, et cetera, or you build it intentionally. So there's a lot of metrics that are out there now because I was a co-founder of like 2X stuff of thinking about this. So that's one of a way to actually make these things move. Second, I would say is that on a fundamental level, it's about your intentionality of wanting to see yourself as a leader. So for us at Frontier Markets, we've been asking ourselves this tough question of what does it take for us to become a global South champion? That requires the right partners who know organizations that are equally interested in wanting to do this work with key ingredients around last mile access and solutions. They may or may not have technology that ideally they have a gender lens intentionality, and if they don't, we can help build that. So finding that pipeline. Second is then building the capacity, letting them co-learn, come to the field, so we incubated like 6 countries like a couple months ago, because we said learn from us. But the third, and I think this is the most important, I think what Humanity Insured does, and I think Nikki, what you're doing is so powerful, but at the end of the day, we need so much more of it, because you need to be able to then bring in the power of philanthropy that allows partnerships, incubation, testing, and things to happen in the right way, that enables like that crossover to what Philippine, you were saying earlier, is market, right? But it's a pathway, and we need the right people to believe that, to make that happen. But I don't think that and I think it's actually not as difficult as we think it should be, which is why I'm happy that we're doing this as Catalyst now, because obviously that's our philosophy as but it's about bringing those people together. Right people, right time, right organizations, right structure, right SOPs, and also the right funding, frankly, to back it, so that you can actually not deal with the other challenge in the room is when people are fighting with each other around who's going to like cover their costs for an innovation or an opportunity to make that happen. So that's my thoughts.
Nikki.
I would say that, and I guess my last comments around whether funding is a feminist issue would be about yes, it absolutely is, because I think clear from all of us is funding is actually not just about the finance, it's about power. And all people that are either grant making or impact investing have the choice about where they want to grant or invest it. So it's about whether we choose to control or whether we choose to liberate communities around the world in how we're moving money. Whether we want to strengthen or weaken movements for changes and new approaches for doing things. There is a shift in this direction, like trust-based philanthropy, participatory grant making, but I think it's probably small and minuscule in comparison to the whole financial spectrum. So social justice movements in the UK receive 0.2% of all funding, all charitable funding, which is probably where most women's led and kind of minority group led organizations are housed, because they're doing things differently. They're approaching it from this really deeply trust-based and relational approach that puts people before projects, and that is what we need. So yes, funding is absolutely a feminist issue in how we move money.
Thank you so much. Philippine, is there anything you wanted to add into how we barriers for people so they don't have to keep breaking down the same barriers pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ajita and Nikki have obviously shared a lot. I think from where we're sitting as Humanity Insured, it's we have really seen how financing premiums and kind of insurance solutions for women doesn't just unlock safety nets and kind of that immediate payout, but it actually creates pathways to financial inclusion, leadership, and long-term stability. And those 3 elements are required because financial protection, in order to have financial protection, you need that financial inclusion. So through some of the work that we're doing, we're actually bringing in women into the formal economy in India, for example, when they were previously outside of it. We are securing health outcomes for large populations. We're securing education continuity for children. We're helping to reduce the number of girls that are forced into child marriages, right? Because of climate change. And so I think that it's about what we're seeing is, when we're working with women and protecting women, they are then able to plan, invest, and lead, and ultimately lift entire communities up with them. And what we want to do, because as Ajita mentioned, as Nikki mentioned, there is this financing issue. So through our portfolio, through our approach, we want to gather all of this data from across our portfolio and share learnings and essentially create business cases and incentives for different types of financing to come into these solutions, either as impact investment or donor funding, or encouraging the private sector to see these as market opportunities so that other convenings from the private sector can come together. There could be a retail approach, there could be an approach for banks, etc. So very much, sharing those learnings and creating that business case, and and ensuring that the solutions are commercially viable.
I'm so excited actually by what you've all said, and especially Philippine, the business case. Exactly. What why not present it as a business case? And the fact that it has social impact as well. Well, that's ticking boxes too. I've had a couple of questions from the chat, and if you don't mind, I'll open it up so that Alan Braithwaite, I think you wanted to ask the panel something. What you wanted to chip in?
No, I wanted to firstly thank you guys. Really, really good. Hello, Nikki. I know Nikki well. Philippine and Ajita, I'll look forward to meeting you and following up. Everything you said resonates. I think I'm the only man on the call now, so there you go. A couple of points. I thought you'd all like to know that my concern is how do you scale these ideas faster? That's where my mind is. My background is business management, and so I've just written on behalf of Catalyst a submission to the Commons International Development Committee on the future of aid in the context of cuts. So I can't share it with you, but it's phenomenally close to the sorts of discussions you're having here. So I thought that from my point of view, the clarity of the business model around the insurance product is fantastic, and we need to get those business models more comprehensively communicated to the people that can then influence the system at the policy level. And my observation is that most of those people actually haven't got a clue. So good management practice at the center, at the government level, at the level that actually influences policy and influences these very large NGOs, is simply absent. So I thought you'd be interested to know that, and keep up the good work. And I will be following the additional work that I've been exposed today. And Amanda, thank you for putting such a good panel together. Oh, one more point. Sorry, am I allowed one more point? Yeah.
Quick one, because
The,
I think Philippine needs to leave. She has another.
the,
We've squeezed some extra minutes out of the meeting anyway.
One of the things that people don't understand is the power of 1%. And when Amanda and I and David, our husband, going around India and Africa, we found that really very tiny improvements, for example, in agriculture, and I've been sponsoring a man in Uganda to actually promote that, have the most extraordinary difference in people's living standards. So and these things would be regarded by most in the West as being totally trivial, yet they change lives. They also change outlooks and attitudes, and the moment you see a more positive attitude, then people can conquer anything. So the fascinating line of discussion. I just loved it. Thank you. I'll shut up, Amanda.
I'm just getting a bit, like I say, we shouldn't sort of drain our lovely panelists dry, and Philippine needs to go. Ajita, thank you so much for joining us. Are you at the station?
Yeah. I'm at a train station right now. I'm either in trains, planes, buses, or I don't even know anymore. But I was just gonna say one thing to Alan is that so there is we believe that there's an opportunity to build a cookie cutter model for application and learnings. I think the key here has been, and because obviously Catalyst is a part of Schwab, obviously, and so all of us have been kind of colluding. In fact, the reason I'm in Zurich is because I was sitting with the Schwab team this week, and I'll be there on the weekend. But it'd be interesting on your thoughts around your excitement around it, because I don't think it's just insurance. I think it's about platform creation. It's about platform creation. It's about gender. It's about finance. It's about elevating finance. It's about also understanding a pathway of finance. And I think that there's something here that I think, honestly speaking, within Catalyst, and I'm eager to see the paper that you write, but I don't know if it's being covered. And there's an opportunity to actually become aggressive around the fact that like there's seriously some gender economic empowerment, the right catalyst, the right movement. And it's not just about women founders, it's about the people that are on this call. And thank you for being the guy that's on the call, because it's not about just you, it's about all the gender empathetic people that I can tell you that I believe are critically, we're not gender exclusive, we're gender inclusive. And ultimately, we're talking about something that is more powerful in a way that has to be centered. In my opinion, you want climate change to happen, you want healthcare to happen, you want education to happen, you want all these things to happen on a larger ecosystem of impact as a catalyzing effect to make what are the ingredients that you need? Put money in the hands of women and give them that power. And the second they have that, I'm telling you right now, the world moves.
Spot on.
It's
Thank you.
yeah.
Absolutely. And Nikki's just flown in. I mean, I don't know whether she's at an airport or whether she's actually made it home, but she's just flown in from Portugal. So thank you so much to everybody. And I think this was just such an energizing and inspirational call. It wasn't just a discussion, I think. And I'd love to continue it. We'll just have to think about how we can distill this synergy, I think. But thank you sincerely, everybody, and for people giving up their time to attend too. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Amanda.
Amanda, for being an amazing host. This was amazing. And thank you for being patient for all of us. And Filipina, always a pleasure. Nikki, so excited to meet you. And this is all to be continued. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Exactly.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Whoops.